What's happening, my people? Sports Counterpoints podcast. Today is April the 26th, 2023. I'm GB. Got Brian upper left, Coop on the upper right. What's happening?
What's going on?
Man, we back at it. Coop always come with the key sweat voice when we start. It's one of my favorite parts of the show. So what's happening, man? We back at it. We're gonna be just talking NBA playoffs and the draft. I mean, NFL draft tomorrow, NBA playoffs heavily underway. For as much as I talked about the season, the playoffs has actually been pretty good, mainly with this Kings Warriors series. But let's run down the list, man. Couple teams are out of there, man. Couple of squads are few squads are done actually. So let's just start with today's games. We'll start with the earlier games and go back, and we could talk about the series as they relate to those games they played. Um, let's start with yesterday. Nuggets knocked the Timberwolves out of there. Everybody's favorite series. What y'all's thoughts on that?
We both called that one, right? We both said it that it was, wasn't going to be much of a series. I can't remember if you said it would be a sweep, but I know I called 4-1 on that one, just because I don't think there was only one series that I called a sweep, and we'll get to that one later. It was the only sweep. But look, Minnesota Timberwolves, they've been disjointed. They were lucky to make the playoffs. They've had a lot of problems. Rudy Gobert is fighting with his own teammates. Karl Anthony Towns lost his best friend. So this was never a team that we thought was going to go very far. And, they played basketball, and anyone who looks at this series and says anything about how Jokic looks like, so this is not the series to look at and come to those conclusions.
Yeah.
Right. This was a warm up. The 1 seed is supposed to beat the 8 seed. We'll talk a little bit about the 7-2 matchup in a minute. But the 1 seed is supposed to make quick work of the 8 seed. And anything that's different from that is unusual. So there's nothing to see here, nothing bad to say about either team.
Yeah, I think I had this in file. I think I wanted to call a sweep, but they usually win that game 3 at home. I said if Anthony Edwards goes off, I think for 30-something, I think they might have a chance to win a game, and they did. But Minnesota looked like they were offensively challenged, and Denver looked like they were bored. They would go out the leads, and then Minnesota would just come back. And I really think that Denver was just bored because they knew this wouldn't be a challenge. Denver's the better team. They're the deeper team. And then Brian alluded to Minnesota's shortcomings before the season started. They had some things happen. And quite frankly, they just weren't playing very good and didn't have that much momentum coming into this series.
And the Lakers had all their talent. Vanderbilt, Beasley, and Russell. All their young talent came to us.
They were missing one player, man, who is a star in Minnesota, and
don't say Beverly. Don't say Patrick Beverly.
My thunder. I mean, had he been there, they'd have won, bro. He just stood on the table and everything, man. That'd have been a dub.
Yeah.
They shouldn't have traded him. I know he's laughing.
But this one series showed me that Jamal Murray is definitely back. I know he hurt himself, and then last year he wasn't all the way, but this season it looks like he's all the way back. They always says it usually takes that season after your LOACL to get back, and looks like Jamal Murray is really going to be a problem for anybody that plays Denver. But I'm with you, Brian. I don't think anybody can judge Jokic after playing this series against Minnesota. Like I said, I think they were just cruising to me.
Yeah, and it makes sense that people would want to judge Jokic in a series where he was playing against Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert on the same team. But because you're like, they've got other big men who can match up. It's a team game, and this was just not about it. And quite honestly, I think Jamal Murray was a much bigger factor in this series than Jokic was.
Yeah, definitely.
So you guys want to stay in the West?
Yeah, we got to.
Wherever.
We'll we got to because let's just keep going down the tree.
GB, let's go with Phoenix and LA.
Yeah,
so I gotta give a shout out. Got to give a shout out to Javier. Good looking out. Me and GB was hanging out. My man Javier. Man, it was a good time. Good time
up from Arizona. So we was all Phoenix fans yesterday.
No doubt. And plus, I hate the Clippers, so it was doubly. I was doubly a Phoenix fan.
The Clippers hate the Clippers, bro.
But just watching this series, it just seems like Clippers needed to play, I would say, a very good or perfect game to beat Phoenix in this series.
Without your stars?
Of course.
They only won the one game that the star was healthy.
They played. Exactly. So they had to play a perfect game. Hey, that's not my fault. It's not my fault that they stars, didn't play. I mean, that's what they do. They don't play. So
they got hurt, man.
But Phoenix, they still have shortcomings. I mean, they still don't have a bench, and I don't think you can continue to win playoff series after
Yeah, that's gonna be
playoff
tough.
series when you don't have a bench. They are very starting five heavy. Booker, he killed it yesterday. Chris Paul was actually letting him run the point for a majority of the game and making decisions on when to pass and when to shoot.
Yeah, he's getting busy though.
So it kind of, yeah, exactly. So it kind of saved Chris Paul's legs from getting hurt this series, maybe the next one. But Kevin Durant is still, I had to throw that in there. Kevin Durant is still Kevin Durant, probably the best scorer in the game right now. Easily the get a bucket whenever guy in the league. And, he was doing this thing, and that kind of makes Phoenix, in my opinion, it makes Phoenix very watchable. Which is why I'm kind of interested in watching Phoenix play Denver, but we'll talk about that later. But I had this going 6. I thought that Kawhi was going to play, more than a game or two, but ended up going 5. So congratulations to Phoenix. But I think we both predicted this was going to happen. B, what you think?
Yeah, I had it in 5. I never had a lot of confidence in the Clippers because I just have no confidence in the Clippers. That said, the one game that Kawhi played, I mean, he played great when he was healthy. He got hurt apparently in the end of game 1, and then played through it in game 2, but obviously couldn't overcome that, and then was out after that. Turns out he's got a torn meniscus, which means he's probably not going to play until the middle of next year or longer, knowing him. One, he heals slowly. No knock on that. It happens to people. But 2, he is definitely not interested in pushing his comebacks. So
I don't know
he comes back when he is ready, and not a moment before. So no surprise here. Devin Booker's third quarter in last night's game was very impressive, where he basically went rock star for the third quarter. Then the Clippers mounted a little bit of a comeback, and KD got him across the finish line. But it was good to see Booker doing that. I think the real reason why Chris Paul might actually survive this is because he's no longer the guy. And all the other ones, he's always been the number 2 guy, or you need him to stare, he doesn't score or anything like that. But now he's the third guy. He's there to kind of root the young guys on and all that. And I think that might save him a little bit. What I really think is a more interesting conversation, and we were asked about this in our group chat earlier today, is what are the Clippers supposed to do before they go into a new stadium? Do they try to trade their 2 guys? And I think that's like the more interesting conversation related to this series is where do the Clippers go from here? So Ty Lue, I do not like the Clippers, but I thought Ty Lue handled the press conference afterwards perfectly. He said, look, our 2 best players got hurt. We lost the series. That's exactly what you're supposed to. It's going to happen. These guys are good guys. They try hard. This is not a fake injury. It's a real injury, so on and so forth. Exactly the way you're supposed to handle it, because you may have to coach these guys next year. And if you said anything else about their injuries, that would cause a big problem. So, I've actually committed a decent amount of thought to what the Clippers should do. And the problem that they have is that they can't trade PG and or Kawhi for like talent. And so they're going to end up having to trade them for parts. And they need to have a star to go into this stadium, because this stadium, which people don't necessarily acknowledge, is going to be an uphill battle. They picked the one place in Los Angeles that they could still go to, and it would never be their home, because they chose Inglewood, and they're sitting right there where the Forum is, a block away from what the place that the Lakers made famous in a city that still is owned by the Lakers. I don't care how many Clippers are going to be there. And they got to open a new stadium, which is supposed to be beautiful. It's supposed to be $1.2 billion. It's supposed to be absolutely beautiful. But in order to get LA fans into a stadium in a city that's still dominated by the Lakers, even when they're not good, and they're starting to get good, they're going to have star power behind that. And it may mean that even though Ballmer and the rest of the organization is ready to move on from Kawhi and PG, that they've got to keep them to market, getting people to pay that PSL money and the season ticket money. There's a lot of money to dole out for a whole bunch of Patrick Beverleys and
Russell Westbrook.
How they catch a stray in this one?
Russell Westbrook plays for him.
Russell Westbrook.
He actually played solidly.
He played really solidly, and the Clippers have made it very clear that they want to sign him, which is exactly why they'll continue to never win, and that's fine.
And Glenn, he went 3 for 19. We watched it. We watched
That was
all
one
16
game,
bricks.
bro. He was hooping other ones.
He was 3 for 18 some other game.
Man, you didn't make no baskets the whole series.
Nothing good about Westbrook. They did not win.
Bro, he did not play that bad, bro.
They did not win a single game.
Like you said, though, yeah, but they didn't have their stars. Like you gonna tell me if you take LeBron and AD out,
he made 47 million.
Yeah,
come on, man.
He's making. He's
that was
the
already
fourth
built
highest
into
paid
the
player in the
contract.
league.
Right. Come on, man.
Star money.
He's making Aaron Rodgers money. I mean, you ain't good for 2 games. I'm just saying.
I hate to see y'all.
He could not win a single game.
All right. We're digressing. We're digressing.
Hey, go ahead, Brian.
Go ahead, Brian. The next series.
The point being is that the Clippers have a real problem. They're going to figure out, because if they're going to make a trade, they're going to have to figure out how to make a trade to bring someone who has enough star power to get people to spend that PSL and season ticket money in a city that is still not the Clippers. I don't care if it's their own stadium, but they're still going to be looking at the Forum every time someone drives down the street and go, that's where the Lakers play.
Yeah,
and I understand the younger generation, but the younger people are still not Clippers fans in Los Angeles. They've just not gone their way.
Hey, Brian, it's going to be expensive.
Brian, late in the fourth quarter when we were all watching the game, me, Glenn, and Javier, I kept saying, just let Westbrook shoot. They were leaving him open, and he was bricking.
You've been saying that for at least 5 years.
Well, he missed that. He missed that wide open layup.
He hasn't won nothing.
All right.
We'll move on.
I don't think you traded.
This is the one topic, one of very few topics where Jason and I are enthusiastically in agreement.
Oh my God.
Russell Westbrook, Patrick Beverly.
It's sad. It's so sad.
We can move on.
Yeah, give me so for me, obviously the best series of the playoffs, Kings and the Warriors, man. Kings lose a key game, 2 key games, honestly. They had 2 really good chances in the last 2 games. Today was a tough one to lose at home. What are you guys thinking?
But you can start this one.
Yeah, I mean, I think that when we talked about this, we said it would probably go 6 or 7. I said that the most important game was going to be this game on the road, because this is the one that the Warriors had to win if they were going to win the series. And they did it. And so, I did not know this fun fact that Steve Kerr is undefeated in series that get tied up 2-2. So basically, at this point, he becomes an assassin, essentially. They did what they needed to do. They won this game on the road, which they have had huge problems with all season long. They're going back to an arena. I have a lot of confidence in Golden State being able to close it out. And I guarantee you the song that'll be played the moment the buzzer sounds is "Tell Me When to Go" with E40 right there in the front.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I think E40 might even come on the court and start hoorahing a little bit.
Yeah.
I think this series is officially over. The Warriors have won 3 straight. They've obviously figured something out.
And it's been great, though.
Yeah, it has been a good series. The Sacramento Kings won the first 2, but I said the series doesn't start until that team wins on the road. It just started. I think Golden State closes it out. I think in closeout games, I think the Warriors are pretty good, except that one year they played Cleveland and lost 3-1. But I think other than that, they've been pretty solid. And I don't expect them to go back to Sacramento for Game 7. Sacramento had a good run, good season. But I think we both predicted this. We took the veterans, usually the veteran teams.
Jason. You got a little revisionist history on the show.
On the show. I said I was thinking about moving. I didn't say I actually officially did.
I said I was thinking about Warriors, and then the next morning he's like, "Oh, I'm thinking about moving here."
I'm thinking. I said I'm thinking. I never made it official. I said I'm thinking. I had to stick to my gun.
Not on here.
I was the only one that picked Sack. Coop stayed with the Warriors. He just
I had to let 2-0 dip, and I got a little nervous. I ain't gonna lie. I got a little nervous.
I never wavered.
Two that game last Sunday, and then tonight, man. 2 key games that the Kings had a chance to win, where he had very good shots, and they just couldn't pull it out.
Yeah, and plus you can't have a Harrison Barnes 3-point shot decide your game. I mean, that's why the Warriors let him go. He had a bunch of wide open shots that year, and they lost the
Well, for me, it's Herter. It's Murray when Murray played good, they won. Herter hasn't really been able to score. I mean, you just need some other scoring. It can't be all Fox and Monk, man. And Sabonis is gonna do what he does, but you need some other scorers, man. I think Davion Mitchell's played great defense on Curry. Curry's gonna be Curry regardless, but he's made it difficult on him. But you just can't. There's no way you can only have a couple guys scoring. They needed some scoring today. They couldn't get it. There's no one else could hit a shot.
Yeah, Clay played well too, but yeah, that's why I said.
Yeah,
Then
he had
that's
some
why
he had some
that's
cold
the reason why
shots.
I took Golden State in the beginning because those veteran teams know how to, especially the Warriors. I mean, they won
Yeah,
titles.
that's
I
all
mean,
it is.
yeah,
Yeah,
they know how to win these
yeah.
games. I mean, I think they'll
And
win
they knew
4 straight.
that, look, they knew that they were winning about 30% of the time on the road,
Yeah,
maybe just a tad. I think it was 30%, not 33% of the. They only needed to win one of the
right.
three.
This one won.
They
Yeah,
did what they needed to do. They won this one, and they don't lose a lot at home.
No.
They're a much different team at
yeah.
home. And this series just set up perfectly for them because it wasn't long road trips where
Yeah, I think this
Jordan
next home game, I
Poole.
think Kaminga might give them 12 points. People try to. Oh, wait, why is it sticking?
I don't know,
Is it
but
sticking?
we can hear you though.
Oh, we good. Okay,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah,
So yeah,
he froze up. But yeah, so if you turn your video off and back on, it should fix you. But yeah,
see,
so okay, so that's Kings Warriors. Yeah, there you go. And then of course Lakers Grizzlies. Man, Lakers lose another one, but
oh,
I expected them to
expected.
lose.
Yeah, I expected them to lose. So I think the Warrior. I mean, the Lakers are an okay team. I think they have these
Yeah,
peaks and valleys, and I kind of can predict when they're going to lose because just by the way they played all season.
yeah,
It
next series.
hasn't been really been a difference of how they played in the regular season and the postseason. But I fully expect them to win this next game, Game
Yeah,
6 at home, and end up playing the Warriors. And I think that would be something that the league will want as well. And plus, people in California and us fans as well. But I
Four
still
one
think that yeah, I
Warriors.
still think Memphis is a weak number 2 seed, and the
Yeah,
Lakers and I do think the Lakers really are the better team. To be perfectly honest with you, not saying as a fan, I just think they're the better team, and I expect them to close it out. What do you think, Brian?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was all over this from the beginning. I thought this was a perfect matchup for them. This is a perfect side of the bracket for them to be on if they're going to be able to get a little bit further. It's kind of working out exactly for them. I was at the Saturday game. That was a lot of fun to watch
nice.
the early drubbing.
Mhm.
But the minute that quarter was over, I turned to the folks that I was with and said, "Don't worry, this will still be a close game in the end," because
Yeah,
the Lakers just have just an ability to kind of give these things away. I actually think that the Lakers, when they play good basketball, which they are capable of doing, they are easily one of the best teams in the West and even a competitor in the league. The problem is that they don't
right.
have the discipline to do that for a 4 quarters or even three
Mhm.
It's
quarters.
tough. Yeah,
They do it for 2 quarters, and it's all a matter of how far in a hole they get themselves in those other 2 quarters. So when they play the high pick and roll and the staggered pick and roll offense, where Reeves and Schroeder are getting into the middle and making the passes, they are really difficult to beat. And they play with so much more energy, which they reflect in the defensive end, and they get out on the break and they get easy buckets and baskets that way, and they run up leads. When at some point in time, LeBron decides that he doesn't want to keep on running up and down the court because he's old or whatever the reason is, and he freezes the ball up top, they have a ton of problems when they try to play these sloppy off half court sets, which almost always end up to them throwing the ball around the outside, maybe doing something, throwing the ball back to the outside, and then someone chucking up a three, which they just can't make with any level of consistency. But I do think that the Lakers will win this series. I think that they'll win it in the next game. If it gets to the Sunday night game, there could be a real problem. But I think that they're gonna shut it out at home.
They better.
And I actually think that they are a really good team right now as constructed, and they've been playing some of the best defense in the league since the trade deadline. They've been playing some of the best offense in the league. Top, I think it's like 7 or 8 since the trade deadline. They have a really good record when all of their stars play, and when they figure out to play the inside outside game with AD and really Schroeder, who has been a key in the games where they've won. You've noticed that they've had more Schroeder on the court, more Reeves on the court, because those two guys have the energy. They get to the middle of the key. They make good passes, although Schroeder was throwing some ugly ones last game. And when they start chucking them, which happens a little bit more with Russell, who's playing well, but I'm just saying they chuck it a little bit more with Russell, or Beasley, or Vanderbilt, who's there. He's better when he plays defense, and LeBron. Those are games that they get themselves in trouble and get behind.
Yep.
All right.
But yeah,
Word up.
I think we said that game would be Lakers in 6, though.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, it sounds about right. All right. So other side of the bracket, Eastern Conference, Milwaukee and Miami.
Oh, Emil.
Jimmy,
Look,
this is this is
go, go,
awesome.
go, go. Miami is the better team. They are clearly the best. I'm stuttering. I was just watching this game and just seeing Milwaukee fall apart, and just seemed like they wasn't a team. They're not a team that ever won a championship. I mean, they fell apart. It's like they didn't know what to do. Their offense was clunky throughout the series, especially in situational or clutch moments. They don't really have a true ball handler or a playmaker on the team, but Giannis seemed to make it work. And it looks like in this series, it didn't really work out that way. And I noticed late in the game, he didn't want to get fouled to shoot free throws. I mean, it's kind of unlike Giannis. And Chris Middleton had stepped up that championship year, and it just didn't seem to work out this year. And I thought they were probably a little bit better because they got Joe Ingles. So I thought he would help from a shooter's perspective. But Miami was just the tougher team. They were grittier. I know they had Jimmy Butler, but they had some other guys on that team that were balling too. But of course, Jimmy Butler led the way. I'm definitely not going to take anything away from him. He really balled out, and you can tell that team follows his lead because they display the same toughness and grit and never give up attitude, just like Jimmy Butler does. So this is probably, other than winning the championship, this is probably the best, I would say, series win in the playoffs for Miami
Almost
for a
swept
team.
them.
Yeah, this was really impressive to beat Milwaukee the way they did, and they make Milwaukee just. I think they of course they were number one seed. I think they had the best record in the league, but you couldn't see it in this series, and that's a credit to Miami, which is why how they beat them is very impressive. So all credit due to Miami. What you think about that the series, Brian?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. All credit to Miami and especially Jimmy Butler, because whether or not other people scored, it was the reason they scored was because everybody in the arena, everyone on the basketball court was looking at what Jimmy Butler was doing at all times. I don't care if it's on the bench. I mean, that's just how impactful he is in the playoffs. And we said that. We said that guy is a different kind of dude in the playoffs. Yep. He is just amazing to watch. Now, I don't think either of us picked the series to go this way, but I don't think either of us are surprised that it happened. Especially when you saw Jimmy Butler. And the other thing is that, Giannis was hurt. Giannis, when he got hurt, it hurt me because as somebody who has back problems from, compression in their back, it hurts. And it does not go away in a couple of days. And even when you do get it right, the minute you're playing something, you get jarred the wrong way, you're right back to being in that situation. It was obvious late in games that Giannis just didn't have the strength. He wasn't running as hard up and down the court, because running is difficult to do when you have a back injury. That took enough off of his ability to be Superman for that team, which is what they need in order for them to win. And Jimmy Butler had all the energy, all the heart. He gets a little loud for me at times, but man, can he play amazing basketball. And for whatever reason, that dude in the playoffs is just incredible to watch. As most of us will remember, there was a period of time where there was thought that Jimmy Butler might be the guy that ended up in LA and DeMar DeRozan before, Wes Brick ended up on our team. One of the things that we talked about in our group chat, a little one, was just how amazing having Jimmy Butler in the playoffs would be, because that guy just turns it on, and he did that. I mean, he put the team, the city on his back, and beat a number one seed. That's incredible.
Yeah, I thought I just got to give Eric Spoelstra his props too, man. Like when he came in, he had LeBron and Bosh, and
coach.
I was kind of like, oh yeah, he got handed this team, can he coach? And then they left, and he's kept Miami relevant the entire time, like the entire time. So, I mean, you got to say they play the same brand of basketball.
He's the 5th winningest playoff coach now. I mean, that's impressive. That's pretty incredible for a guy that was picked to mind the team while LeBron, Bosh, and Wade went out and played basketball.
Well, Eric Spoelstra figured out what the guy from Boston, I forgot his name, he's now in the front office, Brad Stevens. He figured out what Brad Stevens couldn't. Eric Spoelstra knows if you want to win in this league, you have to be able to coach stars. He's able to do it. He's had stars on his team, and he has another star in Jimmy Butler. The guy Brad Stevens couldn't. I mean, in the minute he had Kyrie, I mean, it kind of went downhill, and it didn't work so well with Tatum. But I don't really consider him a superstar. But still, Eric Spoelstra knows how to coach stars, and I think that's a credit.
He also had the advantage of having Pat Riley there.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, I'm not saying he did.
People out of
exactly. Yeah, definitely.
What about Cleveland and New York? Cleveland loses in
I
5
saw that.
games.
Yeah, I didn't get to watch the game today in which they went ahead and won it. But the reason I knew what happened is I started getting, IG messages and tweets from other people moving forward to me about the city of New York just erupting, and that's just it's incredible. You got to know that I'm really happy for the Knicks. As I said before, I thought Cleveland would win it, but I kind of want the Knicks to win because I really like Julius Randle. He played great basketball and helped that team get to the next round. The young Cleveland team has tons of talent. I still think that they're going to be a force to be reckoned with in years to come, especially with Donovan Mitchell and these other young players. But they showed their youth this series and got beat by a team that had more players who have been there before. So congratulations to the Knicks. The city's going to love that they're relevant. And getting out of the first round is a huge step for a team that has been in the doldrums for a long time.
Okay. Yeah, I
Over
don't
100 points.
I will say so.
Cleveland only scored over 100 points, I think, just one time. They were
the one game they won.
They won, right? They were
in game 2.
They were awful offensively. I mean, they had one game I think they scored 79 points. I didn't even watch a minute of this game. I kept looking at the score and just saw how low scoring it was, and just thought it wouldn't be visually pleasing to my eyes. But you got to give credit. You got to give credit to the Knicks. I mean, yeah, Brian's boy. Julius Randle.
He got hurt.
But I do like the other guy though.
He played
I do like
through
Brunson.
the ankle injuries to help that team.
I do like Jalen Brunson.
When I saw him, he was on the bench wrapped up.
I think he only played Julius Randle only played 60 minutes today. But
today I'm talking about he's been injured since the second game.
Right. But Jalen Brunson, I think he's the engine that kind of makes this team goes, and I think he makes the team I guess somewhat of a tough out in the playoffs. So
heck of a trade with Dallas.
So we'll see.
And also RJ Barrett has been an X factor. I mean, the guy had 21 points today. That's a hell of a way to step up in an important game for a guy that, at any given moment, he's either a couple of years away from making it or a couple of years from being out of the league, depending on who you ask.
Or on the trade block, because they were trying to trade him a couple times.
Yeah, they've been trying to trade him, on and off for the period of time, but he stepped up and looked solid in a lot of the games in this series.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we need to talk about Philadelphia, Brooklyn?
Only to say that I think we both had this.
This is the one that we both called the sweep.
Yeah, we both called this a sweep. Brooklyn was just, it was an accomplishment just for Brooklyn to get here. Nobody was expecting much from them. But for me, for Philadelphia, I mean, for a team that's only made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, I think once since like 1983. That was the year they had Allen Iverson in 2001. Ever since then, I don't think they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. They're not being judged off beating a team like Brooklyn. They'll be judged if they can beat Boston, which I don't think they will. We'll talk about that some other time. But this series means absolutely nothing to me. What about you, Brian?
I mean, yeah, look, this is the one that we picked to be a sweep. And I said it then. I don't think Philly was going to sweep because they're good, because they're not. I think they might be one of the sloppier teams in the East. And I also think James Harden, who's of Westbrook fame, is also towards the end of his career. He doesn't even look like the same guy anymore. He can't score. When the referees stopped giving him all his kamikaze dive into other player shots, he stopped being able to score because so many of his points were at the free throw line off of diving to people at the 3-point line and getting 3 free throws. He did play a good facilitator in a couple games and get some assists, but the reality of it is that this team needs to find some type of magic that they don't have yet if they are going to go much deeper than the next round. And I don't think they're playing Boston yet, but we'll see. I don't know if do they reseed in the playoffs, because if not, that means
they don't
reseed. They don't
reseed. Okay, so the Heat. So the Heat are going to be in the conference finals then. Yeah. We haven't talked about it yet, but I'll put that out there right now. There's no way the Heat are losing to the Knicks. Again, I like the Knicks. Would love to see them win, but I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, and I know, just moving to the next series real quick, I know Boston is struggling a little bit with Atlanta, but I don't think they'll struggle with Philadelphia. I just think Philadelphia just doesn't have enough. And we talked about this. Brian James Harden is just not the same player. He's him and Karl Malone. They were players who really needed whistles to really get off, and that happens in the regular season because you got a lot of younger referees that'll
Got to
give you
toughen
them
up in the
calls.
playoffs.
Yeah, but in the playoffs,
Man.
a referee's not going to give you 20 free throws to decide a game. It's just not going to happen. They allow a little more physicality, and it just didn't work out for Karl Malone too much in his career, and it hasn't worked out for James Harden. So, and I think when they play Boston, everybody knows this is going to be a grinded out series, and Boston is going to end up winning. That's assuming they get past Atlanta, which I think we're both on the same side of. But the fact that Boston is struggling this much with Atlanta is a little bit surprising because I really don't think Atlanta is that good of a team. But I will give Trae Young, even though I'm not a fan of him, props on that 3-point shot that he made over Jaylen Brown. That was a really tough shot, and he nailed it. And I'm always happy to see Boston lose. Being a Laker fan, don't get me wrong. I think there's no other franchise that receives more hype for less than Boston. One championship in 36 years. I mean, since the fall of the Berlin Wall, and everybody talks about them like they're a flagship franchise. I don't get it. I'm happy I'm not part of that whole Boston culture and think they're supposed to win every year because they don't. But I'd still expect them to win this series. What you think, Brian?
Yeah, I think they're going to win the next game. I mean,
Yeah.
in the games that this game in which the Hawks were able to get over the top was a tough fought game, big shot at the end. Congratulations to Atlanta to send it back. But when you take anything along a full timeline, the cream rises to the top, and Boston's going to take this on win.
Real quick, if y'all want to do actually, let's do. I don't think the next round start. It will start before we have our next show.
Yeah.
No, because there's games that are going to go on as far as maybe a Sunday.
Miami,
there
New
might
York.
be a game that starts on Monday or Tuesday. But
Yeah, I think Miami, New York, and Denver and Phoenix might start this weekend.
Do you want to real quick give your predictions, or you want to do a next show?
Oh well, shit. I mean, I could just do Denver and Phoenix and Miami and New York. I'm with Brian. I think Miami's gonna win 4-1.
Well, yeah, I guess we have to wait on the other ones. You're right. You're right.
But Denver, Phoenix, that's gonna be the one. I'm gonna take Denver.
I'm taking Phoenix.
I really want to take Phoenix, but I just think the longer the series goes, I think that helps Denver and hurts Phoenix. Man, dude, they have the best player though in Durant, but I'm gonna take Denver in 6. Take Denver in 6. What about
I'll
you,
take
Brian?
Phoenix in 6.
Phoenix in 6. Okay. All right. So we'll see about that one.
I don't really, I don't know. I'll worry about that later. All right. So that's NBA. Actually been a fairly good playoffs after how much I talked about the season being boring. Playoffs been all right.
A lot of good games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There hasn't been a night where there's been all bad games.
Yeah, something entertaining. I think that kind of what you mentioned about teams losing leads, like Lakers have done, we've seen it a lot actually, where Cats will be up early. I think it's just hard to sustain, you know what I mean? So we've seen it happen a lot. But sliding to NFL, man, the draft is tomorrow. So I know how Coop feels about drafts and young players, but I'm just kind of trying to get you guys' thoughts. Anybody you're really trying to see where they go? Who do you think's going to be first?
There's a couple players. Well, first of all, in my opinion, this is the weakest draft probably in years, maybe ever. I mean, if you just base strictly on what they did in college, there's nothing really exciting about any of these players. That's why they.
Are you talking about just quarterbacks or?
No, I'm talking about just overall. No, I'm talking about overall in the draft. I mean, they were saying there are 12 pass rushers in this draft, which means none of them are elite. I mean, you have to sort of find the one that might fit your scheme, and maybe they might pop. Now, of course, I think they might be a star or two from this draft, but just if you just basing everything on college. Remember, this is the COVID year draft, so it's a bunch of 5th and 6th year guys like Hendon Hooker. He's 25 years old, quarterback from Tennessee, entering the draft. So got a lot of older guys in here, but yeah. So, but if you players I'm interested in, like Bryce Young, I really like him. Too bad he's about 5'10" and 170, but I really like Bryce Young. It looks like he's going to go to Carolina. I'm not sure how successful I'm not sure how successful he will be, but I definitely will root for him. I just don't want him to take too many hits in the NFL, which is pretty much inevitable. I know he took a lot against Georgia in that championship game, and he kept bouncing up, so he can take hits and still deliver the ball. But as far as being a polished quarterback, he's definitely the number one quarterback in this draft. He's very polished. He can read defenses just so good. He could tell just by watching him play that he understands how to play football from the quarterback position. And that's why I said not this past year, but the year before, he's the most talented quarterback that Alabama has ever had. I think he's more talented than Jalen. He's more talented than Tua, and more talented than Mac Jones, just from a quarterback perspective, knowledge
Wasn't
perspective. Um, Another person I'm interested in though is Anthony Richardson, because he's this year's version of Malik Willis to me. I know Malik Willis, everybody hyped him up last year,
Yeah.
and I didn't see it. I do see what people see in Anthony Richardson, though. I think he's a boom or bust player. I think people just look at him and see he's like
Got to go
6'4",
to the right system.
244. He hasn't had many college starts, and he rather run than
Yeah.
pass. So he's definitely going to need an offense tailored to him, similar to Lamar Jackson. But I'm interested to see where he goes and if he starts initially coming in, or does he have to wait and bide his time and kind of learn a little bit. So he's intriguing. Another player is there's two more players also. Will
Hold
Levis.
on, let me get a couple in before you.
Oh, go ahead.
Jump
Go ahead.
into
Go
the
ahead.
whole draft. So I'm
Go
going to go with a different position and talk about the two players that I'm interested in.
Mhm.
One is I want to see where Bijan Robinson goes. I think that it could be a difference maker on a team that has a good quarterback.
Running back from Texas, right?
Yeah,
Running back. Yeah.
ridiculously talented, and before he had some injury issues, but just ridiculously talented. He's a star in the making, possibly. Someone I actually kept track of, and there's been talk of him going to teams like Philadelphia. There's been talks of him going to teams like New England. There's been talks of him going to a lot, and most of these teams are teams that are going to be intriguing. And most people don't think you should draft running back in the first round anymore, given the way that they're valued, given the way their careers kind of run out. But most people would agree that he's worth a first round pick. So it'll be interesting to see. He probably won't get picked in the first 5 or 6 or 7 picks, but when he does get picked, the team that he goes to could instantly have a 3-down back that will be part of a larger conversation as in the running back conversation for a long time. The other guy is Zach Charbonnet because of his last name. It's a family name. I'm very curious. Zach Charbonnet.
UCLA?
He was at UCLA, very solid running back. Very, very good, was a star for them. And I can't wait to see where he lands and if he can, make it translate. There's some things that he's really good at. He's not super fast, but he still makes people miss. But he's, he runs a little bit upright. So there's that. But he just seems to be able to make things happen. The kid's got a lot of heart. So I'm going to be really watching him specifically. So those are 2 running backs. After you did 2 quarterbacks, back to you.
Oh, Ben, I'm surprised you didn't mention. I thought you definitely going to mention Jordan Addison and see where he went.
I am curious, but I was trying to.
What's his position and where'd he go?
USC wide
even
receiver.
Some talk that the Vikings might go offense because he might fall down to them instead of defense, where they clearly need help. But yeah, Jordan Addison I will definitely be keeping an eye out for that. But the 2 that I really want to see is Bijan Robinson and Zach Charbonnet.
Yeah, but before I go to each of you guys' teams, 2 more guys I just want to mention is Jalen Carter.
Me too. That's what I'm curious about.
I know he's had some
Georgia.
run-ins, whatever, from the defensive lineman from Georgia. But personally, I think they could have won the championship without him. I mean, that's how deep Georgia was. But if I had to guess where he would go, I would think Seattle, because Pete Carroll, I think he loves guys like that, and he takes chances on guys like that all the time.
It's a good city to be in.
And plus, he has the cachet, Pete Carroll, to do it. It's not like he's going to get fired if it didn't work out.
If he does, he does not care at this point.
Yeah, right.
It's a good city to do it, though. It's not. I mean, I thought about him too, but I don't know if your concern is putting him in Vegas.
Well, I'm talking about Seattle Seahawks.
That's what I'm saying. So, like, I thought about if he fell to us.
Instead of going to Seattle's a better place for someone
Right.
with those things than Las Vegas, because Garoppolo's got that
Here you go. No, I'm talking about.
You get Jalen Carter.
No clubs.
Right. You get Jalen Carter hanging with Garoppolo. It's a wrap.
Seattle. I like Seattle. It's just not that kind of city. It's not Miami. It's not LA. That's all I'm saying. And
I got you.
I got you.
People, exactly.
And then the last player is CJ Stroud, because they always like to make 2 quarterbacks. Always got to be Peyton and Ryan. They always got to hype up a second quarterback, and everybody's hyping up CJ Stroud. And you guys know me for a while. I really don't like Ohio State quarterbacks, mainly because the offense is pretty simple and defined, and they just don't do well in the pros. And he's another one, Ohio State quarterback. I mean, just look at all the list of them that get drafted. I mean, what do they do in the NFL? It's a different game, different speed. They don't seem to adjust too well.
Hard to argue that.
People have him going anywhere from 2 all the way down to 11 or 12. So Don't know where he's going to fall. I just wouldn't be too happy if my team drafted him. Brian, a couple other players you're interested in?
And most of them kind of relate to my team. So the conventional wisdom is that the Vikings are going to go with a corner. The problem is that they're kind of fourth in the lineup of teams that need corners in a 4-corner or actually a 3-corner draft. So there's guys like Joey Porter and there's some of these other talented guys. So I'm going to be keeping an eye out and hoping that I don't hear Joey Porter Jr.'s name until it gets down to the Vikings, but it very well could be the case because they're a little bit deeper. But that's going to be interesting. I think that the Vikings are going to have to go with a secondary guy after all the things that happened in the offseason. They had to cut some players on the defensive side to make room. They had some problems where they were spending a lot of money on defensive players, and so they're going to have to make that right and get the coach some players who can go out there and very early on contribute in the secondary. Yeah. So I'm definitely looking at the cornerbacks. They need defensive line, but I think quarterback is. They were getting toasted in the secondary, so they've got to figure out a way to shore that out.
So Brian, I think I know. I'm not saying I think I know. I think the Vikings are going to draft a quarterback, and I think the reason why they're going to do it.
But I don't think it'll be in the first round.
No, not the first round, but I think they're going to draft a quarterback, and I think they're going to let Kirk Cousins go, and they're going to have to pay Justin Jefferson money. I don't think you can play Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson big money. So I think they're going to draft. I think they're going to draft a quarterback.
Kirk Cousins big money again.
Pay Justin Jefferson and roll with a rookie quarterback, and probably get some other players on that defense as well to help out.
I agree that may be what they do, but I have enough confidence in the GM. It was his Quasi Adolfo, that he will not make that mistake. And the reason why I think it is a mistake is not because I don't think they need a quarterback of the future. It's because there's just not enough depth in quarterbacks in this season for that to happen. Whereas next season, there's some guys who are being held back, and obviously Caleb Williams is going to be there. I don't think that they can lose enough games to get to the Caleb Williams Bowl, but I think, quite honestly, that there might not be somebody who can be the heir apparent. They don't need to be in a Jordan Love situation. They don't need to be in in one of these situations where they take a guy in the second or third round. That's a project, and they only have 1 year to get him ready because they are absolutely cutting Cousins at the end of the season. Every single thing points to it. And I mean, it's not said out loud, but everybody knows it.
Yeah. Glenn, I think your team should just draft defense. Just draft as much as they can.
Me too. They won't.
They're gonna take the fastest guy there.
Right. Who ran a 4.15? Yeah.
Oh, that's old. They're gonna draft a offensive lineman.
Yeah, and then
it's someone who's gonna be solid. It's not gonna be sexy. It's someone's gonna be solid. We're all gonna be salty. He'll be cool. It's Colton Miller. Colton Miller got drafted. We're like, what? He was not good the first year. Now he's a very solid lineman. Can he play for many years? Yeah, but I easily see that. I'd love them to get one of the star CBs. Get a
well, I was gonna say everything that I see has them taking defensive players, and they pick the first of the 4 cornerbacks that I'm hoping are there. So
when have you ever seen the Raiders do what you think they should?
Yeah.
And I've given.
No, usually you can predict that they're going to take the fastest guy out there.
Yeah. Or do something dumb in the first round. Yeah.
Truthfully, that hasn't happened in years. That's more the Al Davis years. But honestly, we've drafted linemen. You got to think about it. We took Cleveland Farrell in the first round. We took.
You also have a long history of drafting cornerbacks.
I mean,
in the first round, Namdi. Yeah. I mean, that.
I'd love to see
Ohio State.
And the truth of it all is, it's been 20 GMs in this time period. So I don't know what Ziegler and them do. I just hope that it's their second year on the job. If they want to keep the job, they need to have some wins, which is in some articles I've read. Why I could also see why you get a lineman, because you can't fail on this pick. And a lineman's, you get the right one. He's usually solid. You might get a Joe Thomas, but you also might just get a very solid guy who you can put on the line and protect.
You might get an Eric Fisher, so you never know. I don't think you know what that is.
No, I mean it's at this point, you're going to get one of the guys someone who's going to be solid. I want to see defense, like y'all said. I mean, if it was me and this is Madden, all 12 picks, I would get defense.
Yeah, for me, I want the 49ers. Well, we all know 11 players ain't making the 49ers, so they're not keeping all 11 draft picks. That's just not going to happen. So I expect them to move up early in the third round or probably late in
Yeah,
the
that's
second
fair.
round to get somebody. But
That's fair.
49ers, definitely an offensive lineman, definitely a corner, definitely maybe a safety as well. But definitely need offensive lineman help. Try to find a person opposite of Nick Bosa that can sort of help out so Nick doesn't get double teamed all the time. But those are my three areas of
And you have to
concern.
pay Bosa too, so you're gonna need somebody
Yeah,
that's not gonna be
exactly.
expensive
Exactly. So
on that line.
that's what I'm hoping for. But it's I don't know. Brian, you said Bijan Robinson. It's funny because I don't think like you said, running backs don't get drafted in the first round, but neither do linebackers. So it'll be interesting to see, if he actually goes in the first round.
There's
So
always a couple. I mean, we got Josh Jacobs and Edmonds and a few of them other Roquan Smith and a few of them other guys from a linebacker position and running
yeah.
backs. Someone's gonna go. One of them teams gonna surprise you.
But am I generally interested in this draft? Not really. I don't think I'm even watching a minute of this draft, to be
Oh no,
perfectly honest with you.
I'll
It's just not that interesting.
I'll check my phone though.
Yeah,
I'll
I'll
for
Yeah.
check my
sure.
phone. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'll make
For
sure I'll
sure
see
be
the
checking my
alerts
phone.
when
Yeah.
when
You know, I'm interested to see what D'Amico Ryan does with that second pick. I don't think he's going to draft a
Yeah.
quarterback.
Yeah.
If Bryce Young is gone, I don't think he drafts a quarterback. I just don't. I really
really.
don't. Yeah, I don't see him getting to Anthony Richardson. He doesn't have. I don't see him. Will Levis could probably be the second quarterback off the draft.
Forgot about Levis.
Will
Yeah.
Levis. I think Will Levis will go second because he
A lot
kind
of
of has a
people
little
like
bit,
him.
because he had a little NFL experience with that
He
coordinator who
looks-
was with the Rams. But
He looks like a Colts quarterback.
right. But we'll
Big
see.
white dude.
We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's I
Curious.
ain't too many thoughts on the draft.
Where
I
guys?
don't have a bust in this one, Brian, a super bust, and I don't have a super
Yeah.
great player that I like. Usually I have a one player.
Yeah,
I
I
like.
think all the quarterbacks are kind of a part of a pack. That doesn't mean that they
Yeah.
can't become all-star players, but I
Right.
don't think you're getting an Aaron Rodgers statistic numbers or one of those types of
Yeah.
dynamic change athletes or anything like that. But would I be surprised if the upside of someone like Bryce Young is along the lines of a Jalen Hurts, who's now has one of the
Sure.
best contracts ever and
Sure.
plays really solid ball. But they could, he could also just be Justin Fields, or he could also be some of these other guys. I just don't think that there's also on the other side of that. I don't think there's anybody here, at least at the top, with these four guys that we're talking about, with C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young and Levis and so on. That I don't think there's any of those guys who are necessarily going to be bad. And what I mean by bad is, they play and lose games. I don't think there's anything wrong with a quarterback being drafted and being a solid, backup / reliable starter guy for multiple years. I know that you might feel a little bit differently about that, but they don't pick where they get drafted, in my opinion. And so, they just need to go out there and play football and be a good contributor.
Yeah. I don't disagree, but if you got somebody in the top of the first round, I think they need to be a little bit more than that. But
it ain't their fault that you decided that they were that guy. They didn't even tell you.
You know me. I didn't decide.
Last thing, because we're getting to the end. Aaron Rodgers, real quick. What y'all think?
Bye.
Nothing. I don't think it makes the Jets.
You want to pay the $25 for you to take one bag on United as you fly your butt to
I don't think it makes the Jets Super Bowl contenders. It's just
AFC is tough.
Look, I honestly think that the Jets were a pretty solid team. They have a great defense. They have great talent in some of the skills positions. But I don't think I don't think that Rodgers has been that dude for a while.
Yeah.
And then the talent is young talent, and we all remember the kind of relationships he forged with his young talented wide receiver in Green Bay. So he's going to have to do better. So I don't know if when he was in the silent room he came to some conclusion he wasn't going to be a jerk going forward. But unless he did, it's going to be more of the same in a different location.
I think they'll surprise.
The Jets are going to have fun. Jet fans are going to enjoy it.
Yeah, they'll be a highly used team on Madden. All right, last two segments. Hello, Hogwash.
I don't even have a Hogwash segment.
I don't got one either.
I don't even. We could just wrap it up if y'all want.
Unless you had one.
Thank everybody for listening.
The only thing I was going to say, the Hello Hogwash is this Lakers effort in these road games. Like, it is just abysmal that you can predict. So everyone can predict so easily that they were going to go into the game in Memphis and without Ja and crap the bed there. And then the same kind of thing with the effort in here. If they've just got to be able to develop something. It's hella hogwash that Darvin Ham hasn't figured out that he needs to go over and talk to LeBron and say, LeBron, you cannot freeze the ball at the top of the key after we have a good run, because all you do is you kill all the momentum and we give it all the way back to their team. It happens every single time that they have one of these nice runs.
I'm with that. Minute to win it. I'm like, Coop, just thanks everybody for listening. Hey, Mom, what about you guys?
Oh, I don't know if you guys know, there are a bunch of NFL players that got suspended for gambling, just completely stupid. But that's just dumb. You know, you're not supposed to do it.
Jameson Williams.
Yeah, Jameson Williams got suspended because he was gambling on college games inside the NFL facility and got caught. So I don't get it. Just to let everybody know, when college scandals go on, the NCAA never catches that stuff. It's always Vegas. And when stuff like this happens with NFL players, NFL's not turning them in. It's the companies. The gambling companies are turning them in. So just letting you guys know. It's stupid.
After Calvin Ridley, y'all should know.
Why do it? Exactly. Just dumb.
Appreciate y'all for listening. April the 26th, 2023. We'll catch y'all next time on Sports Counterpoints. Thanks.